welcome to the Malaika Writes channel. My name is Malaika and today I will be going through my 2021 January reading list. So I picked out books that will help with my current writing project, which I think is really important for writers to read with purpose. So pick out books, don't just pick out any kind of random book that you felt like reading, but especially when you're in the middle of a project, it's important to pick up books that you think will help you with that project. So a number of the books are sort of, they either deal with a very large character cast or they are some sort of fantasy or mythology book, or they're helping me with my understanding of literature as a whole. So the first book is Literary Theory, An Introduction by Terry Eagleton. And this is the anniversary edition. I think it's really important as a dark academic and also as a lover of literacy and everything else to understand how it works and to understand the discussion around it. So this is my January reading list. I've actually read this before, but it never hurts to read a book again. You actually find out more in the book the second time you read it than the first. The next book on my list, it's actually a collection of poems by John Keats. So this is the entire collection of his works. I'd gotten this a long time ago but never actually got around to reading it, so I told myself this January this is what I'm tackling. Okay, and then the next book is The Epic of Gilgamesh. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is one of the oldest stories that we have up there, so it's really interesting to see how this develops, and it's a classic, which is really important for any writer to at least have one classic in your reading list. I think the classics are the cornerstone of literature. They are the pillars on which we are writing, so I think having at least one. I have a fair few in this pile, but I think at least one will do you very good if you're a writer, or if you're just really interested in looking at the classics and looking at literature and really understanding the journey of literature. The classics are a good place to not only to start, but they are really good to have in any reading list, so have at least one. The next book, Dante's Inferno. Like I mentioned, I'm writing a mythology sort of project, so what better book to refer to than Dante's famous Inferno. So this, because the tale I'm writing kind of revolves around death, murder and stuff like that, so I think this book will really help inform me, which is why it's on my list. I've read it before, but like I said, it never hurts, to read a book a second time. So the next book is Proust, A Remembrance of Things Past. I think this book is very, very worn because I have read it before and I really loved it. I collected a bunch of sentences which I think were brilliant to do a rephrasing exercise, which is basically where you take a sentence, you switch out some of the words for different words, and you try and change the tone and the pace of that sentence, and you see how it changes the pace of the overall work. It's a really good exercise in the importance of words and word selection. So a book I'm going to read again, a book I'm going to explore again, so that's why it's on here. I also think it's really important to start your year off with a few classics. I know I said have one, but I think it's really important when you're starting your year to sort of go back into the classics, especially if you're a writer. So the next book is Vanity Fair. This book deals with a very large character cast, so that's the main reason why I picked it. Also, it's a really lovely story, and I think it's going to be a very pleasurable read. Right, let's shift these so we can get down to the bottom. Just going to put these here. This next book is a mammoth book of Celtic myths and legends by Peter Ellis. I think that this book I've actually started reading already. I couldn't wait for January. This is really interesting because it takes you through all the myths in the Celtic culture. So that includes the Irish, the Scottish, the English. So it's a really informative book if you want to know more about, you know, Celtic mythology, if you want to really know more, and you want to know more about how the culture develops, because I think myths do something very special. They preserve an ideology of a time gone past. So definitely a book I'm reading, also because I'm sort of writing mythology, so definitely something to have on the reading list. Now, the next work that I'm going to be reading is the Oxford Guide to Effective Writing and Speaking, which is a really, really good book by John Seeley, which deals with language, it deals with writing, it also deals with speaking, so that you're really able to write constructive sentences and to pass your point across effectively. So I think I've mentioned Francine Prose, sorry, and reading like a writer. This is what kind of got me into the whole reading like a writer thing, where I sort of made exercises to help me with reading like a writer. So really slowing down the reading process so that I'm able to pay more attention to detail, to pay closer attention to detail as well, and to see how I can incorporate the lessons from this book into my own work. It's a really lovely book. She is a brilliant writer, and I would really recommend this. This is one of the manuals that I constantly have. I've read this. How many times have I read this now? I've read this 6 times? This will be the 7th, so I've read this 6 times. And I continuously read it, I continuously refer back to it. She's one of the people that you need on your reading list constantly. Even if she's not in your main reading list, but you always need to have her by the side to refer to. Okay, so the last book on my reading list is the Bible. Because how does one refer to mythology and sort of stories that expand over time without going back to one of the best-selling books of all time, which is the Bible. This is the English Standard Version, but I'm working on getting the King James version. I think I have the King James New Testament, but I need the King James Old Testament in order to complete the King James Bible. But definitely, even if you are religious or not, the Bible is a really good source of culture, a really good source of like just lessons and what people follow in terms of morality. It's also the basis of a lot of Western civilization, so definitely something to read. You don't have to read it in religious sort of terms. You don't have to really look at it through a religious lens. You can just look at it in terms of studying a culture, studying a people, studying an ideology. So yes, that's my reading list, and I've picked out this reading list specifically for the type of work that I'm doing. I think all writers, I've mentioned this before, but I think all writers should read with purpose. When you're a kind of regular sort of reader and you just read for fun, you don't have to follow a particular method in terms of how you read. However, when you want to be a writer, when you want to make this a career, when this is something that you want to do for the rest of your life till your death, then I think you really do need to have a formula or sort of method that you're following in order to make it effective and to produce the most beautiful work that you can. In future videos, I'm going to talk about some of the methods of utilizing books properly, because I don't think just reading them is enough. I do think you need to study them. So the differentiation between a reader a reader and a writer is that a reader reads, but a writer studies. And I think that's a video I'm going to do much later, but for now I just wanted to talk about why I picked up these books and also to show you what I'm going to be reading. So I'm going to be posting like pictures of this on Instagram, so if you follow me on Instagram you'll definitely see what I'm reading, what my opinions of it is, and yeah, so that's basically this video. I don't want to ramble on too much. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Share if you think this will bring value to anyone, and thank you very much for watching the Malika Writes channel.